it's Mo. Today I want to do a try a chapter video. Usually when I do try chapters, I have like a stack of books already set out for me. I have a stack of books that I have put aside to do a try a chapter with, and those usually live right here on this shelf. That being said, recently because of my book acquiring ban and because the rules are one in and one out, I have gotten rid of some of those stacks of try a chapter books without trying a chapter. So I don't really know what the state of my try a chapter books are. I have a couple of books on here that are actually going to go back on my TBR shelf, and I have some books on my TBR shelf that I think I want to put into here. So I thought today we could go through this little stack, see what books I want to try a chapter of, and then start our try a chapter. First off, I have a young adult novel called The Face on the Milk Carton by Carolyn B. Clooney. I picked this one up because it's set in New Jersey and I didn't realize it was YA until I got it home. I don't know if I'm going to be in the mood for YA, but I did want to try a chapter just because it is a New Jersey book. I have The Club by Takis Verger. This one I picked up at a little free library many years ago and seemed like maybe a dark academia slash mystery. I feel like I've read the first couple of pages of this, but I don't really know anything about it. This is a possibility. I have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This was like a cover grab. I got it in a little free library and it's just such a beautiful cover, but the more that I hear about it, the more I think it's not really going to be for me, and it is quite long at over 400 pages. This is a possibility. Maybe this would go with this too because it's about like friends meeting in school and growing up together. Another sort of school time friends coming back together is The Divines by Eerietown. This was another cover grab. I just both love and hate the design of this cover. I think the cover is really pretty, but also I think maybe it's like a little lazy. I don't know. I just like it. I'm seeing a theme emerge though. I have A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallero. This is a middle grade book about like a Sherlock Holmes adjacent person. Maybe I can do like a young people's try a chapter at some point. I have Drifts by Cape Zambreno. This was another cover grab. I really think the cover is super beautiful. I have absolutely no idea what this is about, and apparently the person who had it before me got that far in. I don't think it necessarily goes with any category yet, but we will see. I have People of the Book by Geraldine Brooks. Everybody really loves, not everybody, but a lot of people like Matthew Sharapa really love Geraldine Brooks, but I'm not sure if she's for me. I think I got this one at a book sale or a little free library, but it is quite ripped up. I have a feeling that this one isn't going to be for me, and I have a feeling that I could probably get rid of this one without even thinking about it. Finally on this shelf we have The Overstory by Richard Powers. Now this is the one that's going to go back on my TBR shelf because even though it is over 500 pages, I am going to be doing a Booker reading project. So this is one of the books that I have that was on the Booker long, short, or winner list. I'm going to give it a try, but not just a try a chapter. I'm actually going to try it. I feel like we have 3 books that would definitely go together, and then another 2 books that maybe could be a miscellaneous category. We have 2 books. We have 2 books for a young adult slash middle grade, and we have 1 book going back on the shelf. So I think what I'm going to do is take you over to my TBR shelf and we'll look and see if there's any other books over there that we could add to this try a chapter. This is like sci-fi, I have comics, I have young adult. This is like a combination of young adult and sci-fi. That's all sci-fi. This is like my literary shelf. I have queer books down here. I have translated books in this pile, and then I have more books that just need to go into the literary books section. So these are also all pretty much all white authors because I have a whole nother shelf that has my people of color. The books that I really want to pare down with these try chapters are by white authors because I have a lot of white author books and I don't need to be rating so many white authors. These are all my NYRB books. They get their own special section. This I think is actually a sci-fi book, so we'll put that up there. This one might be a good one for try a chapter. I kind of got this on an impulse. This one also was a little bit of an impulse buy. It was at the Salvation Army by my house, and I do really like this cover because I'm in love with this kind of rag rug. I have a couple of them. I just remember them fondly from like my kind of hippie-ish upbringing. This is also a beautiful cover. I think I got this at a book sale. I honestly don't even remember getting this book. These are short stories. One of the reasons that I'm doing a book acquiring ban is because I have so many books that like I'm at the point where I don't have enough shelves or space to keep all my books out all the time. So this is the kind of thing that I have to go through to like move books in and out, which just means that like less books actually get read. Okay, I see a couple here that I could definitely put on try chapters. Three Women by Lisa Taddeo. I know that some of the people that I follow really liked this book and like Animal by Lisa Taddeo. I don't know if she's going to be the author for me. So this one can definitely be a try a chapter. Once Upon a River by Diane Suttonfeld. I actually got this at a book sale because I was thinking it was a different book that I wanted. Over 450 pages. So this I think is like magical realism too, which like sometimes I get on with, sometimes I don't. So this is definitely a possibility for a try a chapter. It's such a hefty book, and it wasn't the book that I actually wanted, so you never know. This is a good one for a try a chapter. This was also from the Salvation Army near my house. It's My Policeman by Bethan Roberts. I got this one because I feel like I've heard one really good review of this and then several not great reviews of this. So this would be great for try a chapter. I also feel like this could be good for try a chapter, similar to the Geraldine Brooks and the Diane Suttonfeld. This is one that I picked up because I wanted to read a different book by this author, but this was the book they had. I got it for $1 at the Asbury Park Book Co-op. Oh, The Essex Serpent is the book that I wanted to read by Sarah Perry, and it was also the book that I thought this was this book. Malmoth would be a good one to give a try a chapter.
The last little section is this one down here.
I got this in Ohio, and I got it because a little old lady at one of these bookstores I went to recommended it, and I didn't buy it because I didn't want to purchase it, but then I found it in a little free library, so I was like, oh, for that little old lady, I will pick it up. It is a historical fiction about Cleveland and about the Rust Belt in Ohio, but it is almost 500 pages and historical fiction, and that's just not usually my thing. So this one is actually about an Australian bookseller looking for rare books and trying to figure out something going on with a manuscript, which is by a Jewish writer or from Jewish descent. So I think though this is probably going to have some like magical realism in it. I know that Once Upon a River has some magical realism in it. I'm pretty sure that Malmoth has some magical realism in it. Those three kind of go together. We also have like My Policeman, which is historical fiction. Three Women, which I don't think is historical fiction, but is like women's fiction. Signal Fires, which could kind of fit in with that, I think, because that is historical fiction. Daughters of Eerietown by Connie Schultz, which is historical fiction. So we could do kind of a magical realism +1, or we could do historical fiction. So the goal of this is to get books that I can get rid of. I mean, the goal of any try a chapter is to see if you still want to read the books, right? The goal of a try a chapter is to see how interested you still are in them, if you drive with the writing style, etc., etc. But my particular goal for this is that I want books that I can unhaul if I find books in little free libraries that I am really interested in. So like now, because of this book acquiring ban, I have been looking more critically at my books with the lens of, am I actually super interested in this, or like, do I actually really need to read this? I'm more likely to find books that I don't want to read in this stack. So I think this is the try a chapter we should do today. I'm back. I switched one of the books out because I actually looked at some other shelves and I did pick out 3 other women's fiction that I could potentially read in a try a chapter, and decided to switch out the Lisa Taddeo book for Drifts by Kate Zambreno. I started with My Policeman by Bethan Roberts because honestly I had the least hopes for this one, and I read the first chapter, which is just 3 pages. Peace Haven, October 1999. This book starts out with someone talking to someone else, saying that they're going to write an account of what really happened to this person, and they're going to show it to their husband, and they're going to read it to them as they're lying kind of as an invalid. So we're not clear exactly who that person is and who the invalid is and why they're in the house, but as we read through the chapter we find that this is a woman and her husband has brought this man home to invalid with them, to hospice with them at a house that she didn't even want to be in the first place. And it's like a super angry start of this letter or essay or whatever that she is going to be writing to this man who's convalescing in her house, and she's going to show it to her husband as well. And then I did read part of the back, and I remember now that this was inspired by a relationship that E.M. Forster had with a policeman and the love triangle that ensued. That led me to remember that this was controversial because it was like, did this actually happen? Was it true? Was it based on true events? Like, who's to say, really? But it was inspired by, it says on the back. So I think the first chapter of this was like really intriguing because of how obviously angry and upset this person is, and how much they are clearly not happy. And so it makes you really wonder like what this account that she's going to be writing is, and what the circumstance of this man coming to their house, and what the circumstance of this man and her husband are, why her husband brought a man that she doesn't like into the house. It's not clear, I think, from the opening chapter that there's a love triangle happening, but the back kind of tells you that. It does tell you that. It doesn't kind of tell you that. It does tell you that. I was very intrigued, very interested. I will definitely be keeping this one. I thought the writing was interesting enough, a historical fiction, but one that interested me. The next book that I tried was The Daughters of Eerietown by Connie Schultz, and this is a historical fiction that I was not interested in. I didn't even read the full first chapter of this. It starts with a prologue in 1975. So I read about 3 pages of it, about the same that I read as My Policeman, and it starts with a young girl going to college. She's in the back of the car. Her parents are taking her to college, and she's really excited. And we see through her kind of thinking of forward to college and thinking back about certain aspects of her life, how she obviously has a difficult family relationship. She talks about writing a note to her dad on like the car window, and she's leaving him one last note, but then we see that this wasn't really like a happy memory, that she was yelled at for doing this in previous times and when she was younger. Obviously there's a weird relationship between her and her mother, between her and her father, between the mother and father, and she has an 11-year-old brother as well who she doesn't seem very interested or excited in. It had all that like, I'm a woman going off to college kind of like hope, or like I'm getting out of my current situation by becoming an adult and going to college. But the way that it was written seemed to me to be very stereotypical of that kind of thing. Like you've seen it many times in different movies and read it in books, possibly to like a better extent. The book is like huge margins, short chapters, large font, but pushing 500 pages, and it just wasn't as intriguing to me. There were some tidbits that you learned about Cleveland and the Rust Belt and the industry that would have been interesting, and that was what really interested me in this book, is learning more about the Rust Belt, how industry came to towns like Cleveland and Baltimore and Pittsburgh and then left, and what that did to the population there, what that did to the working class there. But this didn't seem like that was going to be the main focus. It seemed like the main focus was going to be like women, and you know, women are great, but that's not the story that I want to read necessarily. So I think what I should probably do with this one is get a nonfiction book about that subject and read about it that way. But I will be unhauling The Daughters of Eerietown. Next, I did a few pages, not a full chapter, but about the same, about 3 pages of Signal Fires by Dani Shapiro. This one starts out August 27th, 1985. And I read a little bit of the flap, which said that this is for Dani Shapiro's first novel in a long time. I hated the writing in this. It's about a young boy in 1985, a teenager, 14, 15 years old, who wants to impress a girl, and his 17-year-old sister encourages him to go with her and to drive their parents' car while their parents are asleep, find this girl that he wants to date and take her out for a drive, which already extremely implausible and ridiculous. And then on top of that, the young teenager is smoking and he drops the lighter into his lap, causing a car crash and killing the passenger and injuring his sister. The way it was told was this very jumpy, staccato kind of short bursts of sentences, and had a little bit of like, oh, we could have lived this way, this could have happened, which could be interesting and could be something I enjoy. I like books that give you an idea of maybe other possibilities that could have happened. I just read a book like that and I can't think of what it is, but I just read a book where, you know, they were like, oh, this could have been the outcome, but it wasn't the outcome. This is the outcome. I will have to think about what book that was. Oh, I know what it was. It was Universal Harvester by John Darnell. In that, he would sometimes say our main character could have turned around, could have not lit the cigarette, could have gone home, could have lived a life, blah, blah, blah. But in this one, the way that the language was, the way that it was written, and just the very jumpy nature of it really turned me off right away. And I wasn't super keen on this one to begin with, partly because the main character is a young child. Right off the bat, I can say Unhaul. I read more of Drifts than I read of anything else, page count wise, but the pages and chapters of this are like extremely short. Sometimes it's only part of a page, sometimes it's a little over a page, sometimes it's just a few lines. The very first chapter talked about letters that Rilke was writing to his wife, and then we learn about our main character, presumably, who is writing a book, and how she is writing a book, Drifts. Her publishers say it's a novel, but she doesn't really think it's a novel. She becomes obsessed with the idea of writing right now and the moment and what's happening and how is that possible and if that's possible. And it was interesting. It didn't give me a lot to go on, even though I read more of this, but it does have pictures, and we already started to learn that there's another writer that the main character knows, and how that writer is kind of struggling the same way as our main character, not sure what they're going to be writing, holding an advance from the publisher, and the publishers are waiting for something to publish, and our two authors are not there yet. This one was intriguing. I could see this one getting annoying and not going too much further in it before I DNF'd it, but for now, definitely this one was a keeper, as well as My Policeman. I have 2 books to possibly unhaul, and I will be saving them. I won't be unhauling them right away, so that I can unhaul if I get a book from somewhere. If I really want to pick up a book, I feel like I have a little pocket of 2 books that I can use to unhaul, to swap out from my TBR. But I was really happy to identify 2 books. I think I'm being a lot harsher on my Try a Chapter books because of my book acquiring ban project, which is good. That's a good thing. So that was my Try a Chapter for today. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I read here. Let me know if you think I should have kept the 2 that I am unhauling. Let me know if you liked either of these, or if there's anything you think I should prioritize. Let me know if you've seen the movie of My Policeman. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!